It looks like we've intercepted some plans for a junk bot generator for a big bot bash. So let's try it out. And we're off to build a junk bot and have a few issues kind of getting started here. One of those is I misread the order of what things to roll dice for and what to apply them to. The other issue being that I was super excited to use the heavy metal dice that I haven't gotten to use in forever, not thinking about how shiny it was going to be with those chrome metallic surfaces under my surface light. So in the end, though, we come up with some really fun stats, and it's time to go adventuring. That's right. I do this a fair amount, just kind of all of the time when I take the dog on a walk, or when I take me for a walk, or when I'm just perusing around in the void or local parks. I pick up trash, and I try to segregate the trash that I want to keep. There's good trash that's fairly clean or relatively undamaged, or if it is damaged, like this guy here, it's got to have some unique shapes to it, and maybe the damage can be a little cosmetic, but finding Hot Wheels in the dirt of a park is great, along with what I think in the end was aquarium decoration. Not entirely sure, but those are good finds. Those are things that we keep. And then there's a bunch of, there's a bunch of garbage, and that we're not going to keep, but we are going to clean it up. So got to keep that in mind, throw away the junk, and take the rest of stuff and bring it back to the art desk. For the majority of this build, I am working with pretty basic items, materials, and techniques. I use a number of different methods to clean and sand the pieces. Always sand pieces, especially if you don't know what kind of plastic they are. I do use a lot of hot glue in this build, which I'm kind of iffy about. I was trying to do a lot of things in a hurry, but I'm not really sure if it saved me that much time. As you'll see in a little bit, I definitely have to go back and undo some of the work that I've done. In several places, I use a step drill and a reamer to enlarge or make holes in objects. The rest of it is a pair of nippers, a whole lot of super glue, plenty of baking soda to use as a super glue accelerant. Of course, we've got a little magic here. Gotta have some magic. It doesn't always work, so sometimes just more sanding is all that you can do. Additionally, something to keep in mind, always wear your safety gear, especially when drilling, sanding, or dremeling plastic, especially odd plastics, and when using high-speed items, high-speed sanders, etc. Just anytime that you're going to put plastic dust in the air, like right here, wear some face protection. We've got enough microplastics and everything, right? So while I continue the build, and while I'm not going to highlight every individual moment that I'm going through this, I feel like I'd like to kind of address a couple of things that came about because of this build. The first and foremost is I was trying to do this build in a hurry, and I think that caused me more problems than it solved. I went through a number of different things over the last couple of months that made my emotional and mental health not the greatest. And so every time I came back to this build, it was a little bit difficult, and it took a lot of energy for me to get started. But it's important to keep in mind that startup cost can be mitigated. One of the things that I really tried to lean into with this project was preparing my build for the next step. I would kind of identify what was the next 5 or 10 minutes of the project that I needed to do. Did I need to plan my steps? Did I need to cut certain items? Did I need to sculpt or do, anything different? And what I would do is, instead of trying to tackle that piece, I would just set my desk up. I would put out the tools and the pieces that I needed to work on next, and then I would walk away from it, because that would keep my frustration levels lower. And I think that walking into a project frustrated and resentful makes it a lot harder to do than just walking in to the next piece of plastic that you need to snip off and fire across your room. This is also a project that immediately upon rolling out all of the items, I had a great idea for the project that I wanted to make. And I think I get decently close to that by the end. This is one of those trust the process things, and sometimes the process doesn't actually work out the way you think it is. Almost never is it actually going to be exactly how I envision it in my mind. But sometimes it's way worse. I do want to point out right here, this texture is just using like a department store sack cut into a strip and then using the wrinkles to place in to get this kind of flower petal effect. But outside of that, it was a lot of effort, and that the payoff never really hit in the same way that a lot of projects that I work on, I'm excited the whole way through. This project, I definitely hit a number of times where I just lost my gusto a good chunk of the way into the project. And I hit those moments where sometimes you trust the process and you get through the next step and you're like, oh, that did look super cool. And sometimes you trust the process or you trust yourself, and then it doesn't work out. And those repeated kind of successive failures where over and over you're hitting moments where things just aren't working out the way you planned, the way you want them to, or maybe you're making things worse. It gets really difficult, and I am proud of myself. I am glad that I finished this build. I'm glad that I'm here editing this video. It was a lot. This is like, I think this build was about 12 to 20 hours, and that's just footage time. That's build time. It doesn't include all the time that I sat there thinking about it or pondering or just getting frustrated, not wanting to work on it. All that is extra time that didn't get filmed. But there's a number of ways that you can kind of approach this, that I approached it. I could be mad and I could cancel the build and I could try to do something else, or I could really kind of push myself. And I think that there are places where both of those things are ideal ways to handle the situation. I think that it could have been healthy for me to stop this build and go work on something that I really wanted to work on. But I'm also glad that I persevered. I'm glad that I took the time to look at it and say, no, I want to finish it because I want to see it through. I want to see if I can salvage it. And maybe by the end, when I get to painting it, I don't do the best job because I didn't really feel like I could salvage it. But also, that doesn't mean that it was horrible. That doesn't mean that what I produced, what I created in the end, was terrible. I think that this is probably a project that if I spend a little time away from it, I could go back and repaint this and spend more time, maybe even go through and add a little bit more detail to it. And in the end, come back and have something that I'm more impressed with. But that doesn't mean that I'm not proud of this project. I'm proud of this project in a different way. This project will serve as a reminder that I can push myself even when I am sad. And it does still have some great ideas in it, like nice pins. I go and use safety pins for the feet. I think that this was a great idea and the legs on it turned out wonderful. So there are pieces that I have learned. I learned that I can use Dremel bits in my little miniature electric drill, and the lower RPM and the lower torque is actually a lot better for not melting through plastic, and instead of melting it, it cuts it. So there's a lot that I got to learn on this, and there's a lot of pieces that I got to enjoy, despite the fact that maybe the whole thing overall wasn't my favorite project. But one of my favorite things is this right here.
Tell me a sound that's better than this.
Because that is a giant box of beads that I got for next to nothing. And beads are, if you've not seen Bill Making Stuff's bead bots, that, you know, of course, Bill Making Stuff running the Big Bot Bash, and they've taught me a lot of techniques that I didn't have in my toolbox before. So speaking of techniques, I will focus on this for just a second. This is a giant bag of glass beads that came as a result of a blowout in a weighted blanket. And I go through a number of different ways to try to hold these and place them. The two methods that I really stuck with were a homemade version of those diamond placing sticks by just putting a bit of candle wax on the end of a paintbrush. That worked fairly well. I also used tweezers a whole lot, but the glass beads are really slippery and don't hold on very well. So it was something that I went back and forth with to do all of the rivets. But I think in the end, I do like the glass beads as rivets over a bunch of other methods that I've tried. With that though, let's finish this build. Finally, we get to the weapon. The what option was actually what a knockout. So I needed some kind of big punchy thing. And I'm actually really happy with these sort of teardrop shaped LED lights. I think they were from like some garden lights or some outdoor lights. Just immediately had the idea for one of those big giant comedic punching bag hands, like the boxing glove. It's not exactly what I wanted, but I really wanted to like push myself. I didn't want to do just, some sci-fi laser guns or something. As much as I love sci-fi laser guns and as much as I'm not really a fan of comedic boxing gloves, I wanted to, again, push myself and hit those constraints and just, again, trust the process. There was so much of this that was trust the process. And in the end, I think the trust worked out. I think that I learned quite a few new things. But with that all said, it is now time for some primer, some paint, and a story. The Monsanto and Johnson Megacorp presents Psychokinetic Connections and You, Managing Mental Connections within interplanetary species from beyond the far realms, Volume 3. Please note that if you have not finished Volumes 1, Shielding Your Mind from Interdimensional Thought Waves, and Part 2, Transcending the Need to Have a Personality through Total Ego Death, then please see your supervisor or manager, as this training manual may be too advanced and should not yet have been assigned to your learning download queue. If your supervisor or manager is currently unavailable due to your being in a catatonic state while being immersed in a cryostasis chamber, then we apologize for this forceful download. Please fill out Forms 50983-D and Workman's Compensation Pamphlet S973 upon your return to consciousness. By the end of this training module, you will be able to meld minds with an intergalactic consciousness from beyond the far realms, the space outside of space and beyond the stars, hold commune with elder beings as they are transferred biokinetically while we bond them to a body, tying them to an object anchored on this realm, through a difference engine, be able to barter willingly with said beings, and tell the difference between an intergalactic being and an interdimensional one. This guide includes a companion module via download holotape for you to follow along. Feel free to journal in this holotape any thoughts or feelings that you have while experiencing this information, especially any thoughts or feelings about out-of-body experiences that you may have had during your cryosleep or training, as these are of great interest to Monsanto and Johnson Megacorp. Please refer back to this guide anytime you encounter an intergalactic being from beyond the far realm, and remember that you do not speak on behalf of Monsanto and Johnson Megacorp. If you need direct guidance, instruct any intergalactic beings melded with on filing out the necessary contact form to get them in touch with legal for an official statement. The experiences provided in this guide are a part of a series of experiences tied to shifting you into a phased parallel state existing on multiple planar expanses at the same time. While you are phase shifted, remember that all of the simultaneous experiences of your being are normal. Remind yourself of your training provided within the course, fourth dimensional time spirals, and you what to do when you see everything at once, which is linked at the end of this module. While observing the infinite time stream, remember to report any instances of transdimensional trademark infringements to the legal team, along with the located dimension and the space-time infraction for further investigation. While learning about creatures from interdimensional spaces whilst in a phase-shifted state, you may incur the attention of interdimensional creatures. Please do keep your thought patterns to yourself. Remember, everything can hear you all at once, all of the time. So don't think any thoughts that would intrude upon your existence or the continued existence of Monsanto and Johnson Megacorp. All of these references and more can be found within the study guide and the links available at the end of this module. Remember that this guide all included links and module attachments, as well as your contract and continued employment, are all properties of Monsanto & Johnson Megacorp. Please stay after this training for a brief survey about your experiences. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Don't forget, it really does help battle the algorithm and the corporate overlords if you like and subscribe. If you are new here, leave a comment, join some discussion, and I hope that you enjoyed this build and the Big Bot Bash. Don't forget, shout out to Bill Making Stuff and all of the creators who are involved in Big Bot Bash 2. This was an incredible event. I was so excited to take a part this year. Hopefully, if we get to it next year, I can join in a little bit earlier and be a little bit more on top of things. But still, the work, the effort was worth it. Thank you. And for those of you interested, I am actually seeking model parts, not junk or trash, but sprues and model kit pieces, busted kits, things like that. There's a PO box down in the description. You can also find me over on Blue Sky and at cyberfae.com. Thanks.